Hey everyone and welcome to Storytime. My name is Jake and today we are going to be looking at the subreddit r/idontworkherelady, where people tell us their craziest stories on when they got mistaken for being an employee at somewhere they didn't work. If you're new around here, please do hit subscribe down below so that you never miss out on another video. But for now, let's sit back, relax, and enjoy some Reddit stories. Truancy officer thinks I'm a high school student. My family moved to the south after I graduated high school, so my brother had 2 years left and they do block scheduling for classes. All that means is some days he'd get out of school earlier than what we did at our old high school. I go to pick him up from school. It's a 3-hour bus ride or 15 minutes if I pick him up, one day about 1 PM, and I'm waiting out in my car in the pickup area, kinda near the doors. Here comes the truancy officer. "Excuse me, miss, but school isn't out yet. You should be in class." I graduated high school already. I'm here picking up my younger brother. He gets out around 1:15 to 1:30. "I've seen you here before. You need to be in class. What's your name?" I show him my ID. It's out of state. "I know your last name. You do go here. Come inside the office." Well, obviously, brother and I would have the same last name. We're siblings. I go in because 1, I don't want to keep having this issue every time I pick him up, and number 2, I do need to collect brother as we both have to go to work. Different jobs, thank goodness. We make our way to the office, where truancy officer tells them to look up my name. We don't have a student by that name. We do have another student with the same last name. "That's her then. She just gave me the wrong name on purpose." "The other student is male, sir. She doesn't go here." "That would be my brother. Could you page him for me?" "No, I've seen her here before. She goes to school here." "Sir, she doesn't go here. We have no record of any student with her name. Leave her be." Brother arrives to the office looking confused. "Hey sis, you ready to go?" "See, she does go here. Why would she know students if she doesn't?" "My sister is here to pick me up from school. She isn't in the system because she is not a student?" "But I see her every day outside." Brother turns to office lady and asks if we are okay to dip out. She says yes, so we skedaddle. As we're leaving, we can hear office lady trying to explain to truancy officer that all current students are in the system, and that if he brings in one more random person that he sees outside every day, claiming they're a student, she's gonna file a complaint on him. I've only been going here a month and I already know that guy is a moron. Oh, also to clarify, the time gap between bus ride versus getting picked up, we lived in a neighboring town. Not out in the country, but at the end of it, so there were a lot of stops and some were a ways out. Our neighborhood was one of the last stops. There was a bus that ran at 2 PM for early out students, but it could still take up to 3 hours depending on where you lived. So this guy just sees random people walking by the school and thinks, oh, they must be a student because they're nice. I feel like he's just gonna pull in random adults like an old lady one day and start complaining at her. "Yes, I'm Asian, but no, I don't understand you." My high school band was taking a trip to New York City, and we were performing at the Intrepid, an old ship that's been converted into a sea, air, and space museum. We performed in the morning, and afterwards had the rest of the time there to ourselves. I don't remember how long we were there, but we stayed a good bit into the afternoon, because my friends and I had to buy lunch. We ended up stopping at a small dining area on one of the ship's lower decks. It had a really weird setup where there were different lines for different types of food. A line for pizza, another for sandwiches, etc. After you ordered, you were given a little number ticket and had to wait at the end of the counter for your food. After you get your food, then you go to pay at a different counter in the next room, which had the tables. It was around lunch hour, and the place was getting really crowded. It wasn't a huge dining place, and I went with a bunch of my friends, so everyone waiting for their food was standing pretty much shoulder to shoulder. Me and one of my friends, who I'm gonna call S, were the last two to get our food. So we were still waiting at the counter together while the others found a table. While we were waiting, a small Asian lady, who I'm gonna call Al, pushed in between us, but we didn't really care and were just waiting to get our food. As I'm standing there, Asian lady tapped me on the shoulder. When I turned to her, she started yelling at me in some foreign language, pointing at her ticket and kind of holding it out to me like I'm supposed to take it and do something with it. She didn't seem angry at me, more like annoyed in general, and the room was kind of loud, so I didn't think the yelling was too weird. But it definitely freaked me out for a sec. I just kind of stared at her though, because I had absolutely no idea what she said to me. She finished and looked at me expectantly, and I didn't know how to respond, so I just went, "Excuse me?" Then she started yelling at me again in the same language, gesturing to her food ticket. I looked over at S with wide eyes and confusion, and she looked back at me with the same confusion, and neither of us knew what to do. First of all, I don't know why she thought that I could help her with anything. It seemed like she wanted me to tell her when her food would come out or something, but I was on the outside of the counter and was wearing jeans and a long sleeve t-shirt with my school name on it. Everyone in the band was wearing it for our performance, so I looked nothing like an employee or anyone with authority. Second, even though I'm Asian, I'm not sure why she assumed that I would know the language she spoke out of all the Asian languages there are. When the Asian lady stops talking, I just look at her and politely stutter out something like, "I'm sorry, I don't understand you." At that, she just goes, "Oh," and just shuffles away from the counter to her family, who is waiting a little ways behind S and I. S shifted closer to me, and I told her that I had no clue as to what she wanted. I told S that the lady definitely wasn't Vietnamese, which I am, and S, who is Chinese, said that she wasn't speaking Chinese either. Eventually, we get our food, sit down, and I tell our friends what happened while we eat. I don't know what happened to the Asian lady afterwards, but I assumed that she and her family got their food. Looking back, she was probably a confused tourist who didn't understand how the line worked. I wish I could have helped explain to her, but I didn't know how, seeing as I couldn't understand a word of what she said. And based on the fact that she sought out another Asian to help her, I don't think she knew English very well. Oh, now that they're talking about pizza, I really want pizza. Does that happen to anyone else? I got a warning for not parking in employee parking at a mall I don't work at. Yesterday, I went to the local mall with my mum and niece, and when we came out to the car to leave, there was a piece of paper tucked under the windshield wiper. I thought it was a flyer or an ad, but when I picked it up, I saw that it was a parking violation warning. At first, I thought that we might have mistakenly parked in a handicapped space, but then I said that it said employee parking rules on the top. It just listed a bunch of stuff about how mall employees are supposed to park beyond a certain point to leave the good spaces for the customers, and there was a $50 fine if we did it again. I'm just so confused as to why some mall security officer thought that it was an employee's vehicle. We were parked right out front, in the first space past the handicap parking, and my mum has a very unique, recognizable car, of which I have never seen another of in the mall parking lot. She did used to work at the mall, but that was literally 20 years ago. We're there all the time, so I don't know why it's just now someone has a problem with it. I still haven't found any explanation for it. I'm just not looking forward to getting issued a fine by a delusional officer because we go there very often and always park in the same lot. I'm just picturing Paul Blart Mall Cop going around on his Segway thing, just going around issuing tickets to everyone. The tall man in a nice suit is not an ATF agent. This is my father-in-law's "I don't work here" story, but I'll relate it as best I can from how he told it to me. My father-in-law, or Phil, is a VP at a regional bank and is nearing retirement. He and my mother-in-law live pretty far out of the city and commute into the city daily for work. He says he can only play just so much golf because of his arthritis, so he's looking for other hobbies to fill his time in retirement. He's an avid hunter, particularly of birds, pheasant, ducks, geese, and is involved with conservation clubs for some of those. That is how he came to know Michael. Michael, as well as being a member of the Duck Conservation Group, is also the president of a private shooting club that recently relocated from a plot of land close to the city to a plot close to my in-laws' house. Michael gave my father-in-law his business card for the club and invited my father-in-law to come by and see if he'd consider becoming a member. So one day last spring, my father-in-law takes up Michael on the offer, calling to ask if a midweek evening would be alright for a tour of the club. That works for Michael, and my Phil is told to just show up with that business card and the guy at the front desk will let him in. I mentioned above that he's a VP at a regional bank. At that job, he wears a suit every day. So one evening after work, my father-in-law stops at the club whilst on his way home. He shows Michael's business card to the guy working at the front desk, who then pages Michael on the PA. Someone comes to the desk and tells the desk attendant and my Phil that Michael isn't there at the time, but was on his way, as that person had spoken with Michael a few minutes earlier on the phone. That's fine, my father-in-law is happy to wait and asks if he can look around as he waits. This is where he got his first clue that a case of mistaken identity was underway. The desk attendant and the other member/worker/whatever give each other the side eye and reply, sure, you can have a look around. Now, my father-in-law is not a stranger to this sort of club. He's been to them before. He walks over to the viewing window for the indoor pistol range, has a look around, nods to the attendant, and watches people partake. He walks over to the wall of lockers, opens an unlocked one, and decides it seems sturdy and secure. At this time, another member/worker/whatever walks up and asks if my father-in-law has any questions or needs anything, and gets a reply that my father-in-law is looking around while waiting for Michael. My father-in-law walks out to the trap/skeet range and watches for a while. Then walks over to the tactical range. He hadn't seen one like that before, so he spent some time watching. While he's out there, yet another person approaches him and asks if he has any questions or concerns. He comes back inside and goes towards the smith's desk, stopping on the way to read a poster concerning ammunition purchases at the club. At this time, he noticed Michael walk in, and the front desk attendant points him directly to my father-in-law. Michael laughs out loud and walks over to my father-in-law. When he reaches him, Michael tells my father-in-law that the front desk staff had called him earlier and advised that a guy who looked like he might be an ATF agent was waiting to speak to him at the club. Then, Michael had gotten 3 other calls from members who were concerned that the man in the suit was informally inspecting their facility while waiting for him, and wanted Michael to get there in a hurry to handle the situation. Michael announces out loud to anyone within earshot, "This is Bill, he's not ATF, he's a prospective member." So my father-in-law then gets an official tour from Michael, who specifically introduces him, with a laugh to each member, who had called about the ATF agent inspecting the club. Eyes were rolled, groans were uttered, and my father-in-law joined the club a couple weeks later. That's all you need, isn't it? Just a nice looking suit, maybe a briefcase or a clipboard, and you can just get into anywhere. Everyone will just be scared of you. As long as you've got some confidence, you can just do it. Hey everyone, I hope you all had a really good day and that you enjoyed that video. If you want to check out some other videos, then click on screen right now or check out the playlist down below. If you enjoyed that video, then please do leave a like. And if you want to submit your own stories, then you can do so by joining the Discord in the top link in the description. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon.